It's Tuesday, October 11. In the headlines, Reach to Recovery Pink Run set for October 30. Businesses urged to report cybercrime and cyber vulnerabilities. Regionally, Grenada set to receive funds from the UN. And in sports, victory for the West Indies. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Local businesses are being encouraged to report security vulnerabilities within their organizations. Head of the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, JCERT, Lieutenant Colonel Godfrey Sterling, says his team is working to build resilience in the country's cyber ecosystem, but it would benefit everyone if the government is aware of what is happening in the various sectors.
Endpoint security. And this is something that, again, with the pandemic, we saw balloon, essentially. No longer is it just limited to a desktop computer at a desk in a physical building, but now persons are working from mobile devices, whether it's a tablet, laptop, or a cell phone, and this means that they can be anywhere using sometimes very questionable third-party networks in order to gain access to your company. The use of virtual private networks to create secure tunnels back into your systems is one of the basic things that a lot of companies do not pay attention to. Additionally, what you find is that as you come in, applications sometimes are mal-configured, which is where you set up your applications, but you don't pay particular attention to who has access to what, and so persons are able to do things that they really aren't supposed to do.
He explains that while there is no legislation that mandates the disclosure of weaknesses in cyber defense or cybersecurity breaches within companies, Mr. Sterling said the JCERT stands ready to continue to push this dialogue.
We are not seeking to legislate that you report every single vulnerability that exists in your company or every breach that you suffer. But responsible digital citizens really ought to recognize that if as an entity you have a vulnerability that is critical enough to your clientele, if you redact it and ensure that the necessary privacy and data protection laws are adhered to, then you can publish those vulnerabilities. And what you will find is that your experience in one sector might help somebody in another sector.
The cybersecurity head was speaking at a recent JIS think tank session. Nominations are now open for the annual Prime Minister's National Youth Awards for Excellence. The awards recognize Jamaican nationals between the ages 15 to 29 who have attained excellence in any of the following categories: agriculture, including agro-processing; entrepreneurship, including social entrepreneurship; journalism, e-journalism; new media, such as social media, YouTuber, bloggers, and vloggers; in arts and culture, music; national leadership; environmental protection; sports; nation building; and academics. Nomination period closes on Friday, October 14, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Jamaicans are invited to actively join the fight against breast cancer by participating in the ICWI Jamaica Reach to Recovery Pink Run. The event will be held on Sunday, October 30, 2022 at Hope Gardens.
The annual charity race event is back on the calendar after a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Registration is now open and persons may visit the Pink Run website as an individual or team. Donations are also accepted. Samantha Samuda, Vice President of Marketing, Distribution and Human Resources at ICWI, says this year's Pink Run is projected to raise $5 million.
You see, 8 years ago, when the ICWI Group Foundation was looking for a cause to champion, we never imagined the impact that our help would have on people's lives and families, as Sandra mentioned, with the families. Not only on the lives of those women that we've been able to receive cancer treatment because of the work that our team has done, but the pride in the eyes of our staff who are able to participate, not only here in Jamaica, but regionally, the pride that it brings to them.
The Jamaica Reach to Recovery Pink Run is the arm of the Jamaica Cancer Society that provides emotional, psychological, and financial support to breast cancer survivors.
It became apparent that there were some ladies who were having difficulty accessing tests and treatments which were needed to take them on their journey to recovery. And the truth is, breast cancer treatments are expensive. So the group of persons then who are Hyacinth and our MC got together and decided that the way to raise some money was to do a run. So in 2000, they started a run to raise funds to help women access tests and treatments.
Over the years, the 5K Run Walk usually takes place in October. Globally, October is recognized as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and corporate Jamaica has paid homage to survivors over the years through various initiatives each year.
This year is special, not only because we're back to almost normal conditions, but because it is the 20th renewal of the run. 20 years is actually an anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the run. And this year, we're going a little bit different. We're aiming for a family run. The last few years have been a fairly competitive run. You know, we're sort of telling Sigma, watch out, we're coming. But this year, we're getting into a more relaxed mode.
For further information, persons may contact the Pink Run organizers at 876-936-798022, 876-978-3075, or 876-517-3012.
There is a growing e-commerce business market in Jamaica. Its growth has been spurred by a more pronounced stay-at-home lifestyle brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. The Bank of Jamaica also has been encouraging the growth of the businesses. Here's a look at a JIS feature exploring the country's ongoing journey towards a cashless system.
I was in London. I went out to have dinner and I wanted to pay. I took the cash out. Shiny cash to pay. And they said to me the most polite King's English, I'm sorry, we do not accept cash. Later that evening, after my work was done, I went to see the Bob Marley musical. I went to buy a souvenir after the show. Very excited, wanted to carry something I could take home. And how much for it? Oh, £5. I can afford that. Take out my cash to pay. I am sorry, we do not accept cash. Cash is just on its way out.
Adapting to cashless environments is quickly becoming the norm for personal and business transactions the world over, and Jamaica is no exception. There is a pressing need to explore innovative technologies to respond to the changes and ensure equitable access, and Jamaica found its solution, Jamdex, Jamaica's central bank digital currency, the world's first legal tender online money. Jamdex provides a safe, efficient, and convenient way to pay for goods and services digitally.
We are working to put in place the enabling framework to make digital payments and digital transactions a reality. Why? Because the digital economy is the future. Because it is more productive. What does more productive mean? It means we can do more things with the same amount of time. Rather than stand up in a long line to go and get your money or deposit your money, you just access it on your phone or through some other channel. So because of the productivity gains of digital, it becomes less costly. The digital space also allows for us to include more people in the economy. There was a time when we thought of this transition as just Amazon buy and sell. But the digital revolution is much more than that. The digital revolution 20 years later, 25 years later, has become a space a separate space that we inhabit.
Jamdex, which is the digital version of the country's currency, has been operating through the Link app, which is currently the sole approved wallet provider for Jamdex and is made available through the National Commercial Bank, NCB. Anyone with Link will be able to do transactions using Jamdex with another Link wallet holder.
Jamdex allows 24/7 movement between the wallets. So if you have a Link wallet or you have a wallet at another financial institutions, through Jamdex you can move value from Link to the others.
So, how secure is this app?
Jamdex is a central bank digital currency. The benefit of it is that it is fiat, it is backed by the government, it has all the same protections, all the same controls that the minister will be putting in place to manage our currency. But as far as using, the latest, technological advances to secure, encrypt your data, all of that is present in Link. Another thing we take very seriously is managing your identity. So we put in all the same techniques there as well. We're using artificial intelligence to match your face against the document. We are checking your document against the government databases where available to make sure that the person who is signing up is the person who really should be using the wallet.
Jamaica's digital wallet solution has launched their newest feature, the ABM Cash In, Cash Out system. This feature will enable users to top up and withdraw from their Link wallets with NCB's ABM network island-wide. It is contactless, free, and will bring convenience to its users.
Stay with us. We have more news from the world of business in the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
A separate group of companies is looking at new business opportunities in Guyana as the company strengthens its foothold in the agri-processing market through its recent acquisition, AS Bridens. Speaking at its virtual investor briefing last Thursday, CEO Richard Pandohi said the recent acquisitions is simply a strategic plan coming to life, and using each company is a pathway to get other products.
First of all, you're seeing a strategic plan coming to life. Sepro has consistently been talking to Sepro, the chairman and myself, for the last 6-7 years about our domestic market being CARICOM.
Yes.
I mean, that's something we've said consistently. And this is a massive and material step towards actualizing that strategic plan. So to be a part of an organization that's not only talking about strategy, but making it come to life is super exciting. And one thing that's most exciting about Bridens, we talk about the products, etc., but there's a little company called FT Farfund, which is the construction element, and they have a major footprint in Guyana. I mean, this literally puts us in the fastest growing economy globally. And that to me is exciting because what we're using each company as a pathway to get other products in.
Was separating Guyana at all before? Minimal extent before?
We send products on was being distributed. We're there, but I mean, this is a material step into Guyana. I mean, when we go there now, you can, we're part of Guyana society now. We're part of the growth. And that to me is, so you look at the products, but you also have to look at the channels that have been opened, the gateways, and that is super exciting for me.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Monday, October 10, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.93. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $113.65. The pound sterling traded for $172.85. And the euro sold for an average of $154.59. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 449 points. The junior market index declined by 18 points. The combined market index advanced by 249 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 583 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 113 stocks, of which 48 advanced, 49 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Viable Preference, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trade-in Firmware, CAC 2000 Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Equity Line Mortgage Investment Corporation preference shares. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units, Fosrich Company Limited, and One-on-One Educational Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Lico Investment Fund was the only active security with 214 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was the volume leader with 25,000 shares. They were followed by Epic Caribbean Property Fund, Value Fund, and Goddard Enterprises Limited, which traded 625 and 167 shares respectively. In regional business in Antigua, Prime Minister and Finance Minister Gaston Brown says he is confident the country's economy will outperform the growth forecast from the International Monetary Fund.
We believe we'll exceed it, notwithstanding an increase in inflation. It's possible that we could do 7-8%, and we're pretty sure that in 2023 that we'll be able to exceed the 5+% that they're projecting. The IMF has normally been very conservative with their projections, and almost invariably we project a higher rate of growth and would have achieved it. Have the investments, PLH alone, they're dumping a couple of $100 million a year in the country's economy. And we have several new projects that are coming in stream. Already Sunwing has started the demolition to facilitate the renovation expansion of Halcyon. As I said, Jolly Beach is coming back on stream.
In market data for oil prices fell about 2% as recession fears and the flare-up in COVID-19 cases in China raised concerns over global demand. Brent crude was down $1.63 to $94.56 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude dropped $1.82 to $89.31 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
Grenada is among 4 Caribbean countries set to benefit from a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Joint Fund program aimed at reducing poverty and vulnerability in the region.
The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Joint Program was launched recently in St. Kitts and Nevis and is being led by UNICEF in partnership with other UN agencies such as the World Food Programme, the International Labour Organization, and UNESCO at a cost of approximately $3 million. Minister for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, Senator David Andrew, welcomed the program.
This program is timely, as many of us are still grappling with the impact of COVID-19 on several of our key sectors, such as education, agriculture, and tourism, but in particular on the vulnerable, including women and children, and those involved in the informal work sector, for whom security and formal protection are largely unavailable. Furthermore, the program has well incorporated elements of Grenada's National Sustainable Development Plan 2035 in its people-centric approach. People empowerment and the consistent presence of youth voices in making policies and decisions is imperative for my government's transformative agenda.
Grenada's focus for the program will be on the development of technical, vocational education training and strengthening social protection systems in the country.
Our focus on developing and strengthening TVET policies will transform technical and vocational skills into a mainstream activity for youth development and human capacity, creating an enabling environment for versatility, resulting in less poverty and unemployment. The extended impact is the development of a cadre of young persons motivated to explore their full potential to positively impact social progress.
Apart from Grenada, the program known as the Resilient Caribbean, engaging and training youth and strengthening integrated social protection sector delivery, will include Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, and the British Virgin Islands. This joint program will leverage and build on regional support from the OECS Secretariat.
The government of Antigua says it will be in a position to pay public sector workers a salary increase with back pay by the end of this year. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Gaston Brown. Jamie J. Rocha reports.
The government created a negotiating committee in 2018 to decide on salary increases for public sector workers. Around the same time, the government gave a voluntary 5% increase across the public sector, pending the negotiations outcome. Prime Minister Brown says the government is now in talks with workers' representatives to agree on the final amount.
I believe that initially there was a proposal for 7%. It was rejected by the various bargaining agents, and we have asked our negotiating team to increase the amount. So I'm hoping that within the upcoming weeks that they will come to some agreement and that we'll have a formal proposal before the cabinet, which we stand ready to accept.
He says this will be retroactive, and the government intends to use proceeds from a bond it's floating to pay the back pay.
Funds should start to flow from that bond probably within the next 14 days. So on the basis that that comes through, then clearly we'll have the type of funding in order to pay the back pay and to cover the expenses. We know, for example, that our creditors, those who provide services to the government and goods, many of them have arrears, and we want to make sure that we make some substantial payments. We may even factor their debt. So, for example, for some, we may even offer them maybe, suggest that they take a haircut and then pay off the balance, whatever it is. So we want to make a significant dent in the outstanding payables.
The Prime Minister says he expects the negotiations with the bargaining agents to be completed by December 31.
In St. Lucia, local farmers are calling for help. The critical need for interventions aimed at addressing food insecurity on the island has been outlined by President of a local farmers cooperative. According to Richard Edwin, currently at the helm of a cooperative choice group, greater support for food producers is needed.
President of the local farmers cooperative, Richard Edwin, has reiterated his call for urgent discussions aimed at addressing St. Lucia's growing food insecurity. The need for achieving sustainability continues to be emphasized, with the agricultural industry hoped to lead the charge towards self-sustenance. Speaking with NBC Prime, Edwin emphasized the importance of engaging individuals responsible for growing crops on island in dialogue on policy.
It's going to the communities and educate the farmers about the situation, because food security or insecurity is a serious crisis, because you can see it quite visibly in different communities, even from our own community, which is a farming community, the Mabuya Valley. You can see the escalation in prices, even from what is produced, the little that is being produced locally. And you have a strong migration of farmers from the fields, into God knows where. And you can see that, we have so much land, that idle and being wasted. Even the young people, or people in general, out there are not tilting the fields. So therefore, we know that there's a crisis. So having a crisis on our hands, what we need to do is to, reach out.
Edwin examined whether issues of food security have been given the attention needed to address them.
No, because we don't think so. What we think is happening is that the organizations, there are no structures in place in the first place, okay? The organizations that can provide usually structures are the cooperatives. That's what we have, where you have access to farmers, and farmers may have access to these kind of organizations. These organizations, I can tell you about the cooperative movement. They are not included in the planning. We can see this. The budgeting and the economic development planning of the country. In fact, they don't have a place, in the economy of this country.
In international news, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has warned of harsher actions to come. Analysts say setbacks on the battlefield have demanded a strong reaction from Russia's leaders.
President Vladimir Putin was brief and decisive in tone, shortly after he launched more than 80 missiles at targets across Ukraine.
It is impossible not to respond. This morning, massive strikes took place on air, sea and land against energy and military targets against Ukraine. If such attempts by Ukraine continue, there will be harsh responses.
Those attempts refer to an explosion on Saturday that damaged the Kerch Bridge linking Crimea to the Russian mainland. Putin's deputy chairman for the National Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said the blast was an act of terrorism that wouldn't pass unpunished, describing Russia's missile strikes on Monday as episode 1. Both threatened further and harsher action if Russia is attacked again. Recent battlefield setbacks in Ukraine have damaged the image of Russia's leaders, and some analysts say Moscow wanted to show what its forces are still capable of, although its options seem more limited.
Of course, other attacks in the coming days, because they have been happening from time to time during the entire of this conflict. But I don't believe that Russia has the capacity to send as much missiles deep into Ukraine as it did today on day-to-day by day basis. So I believe it's going to be a one-time kind of response, a revenge attack.
But Putin's ally in Belarus said his country was a target of what he called Ukraine terrorist plots and was ready to respond.
Tell the president of Ukraine and the other lunatics, if any of them are still there, that the Crimean bridge will seem to them like a walk in the park if they ever touch a single square meter of our territory with their dirty hands.
Lukashenko announced the creation of a joint force with Russia to defend his country's border with Ukraine. The European Union says it would respond. Developments that some fear could lead to a regional escalation in the conflict. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
In sports, a half-century from Brandon King and 3 wickets from Raymond Reefer ensured the West Indies won their ICC T20 World Cup warm-up match in Melbourne. Here's Wayne Cunningham with the details.
The United Arab Emirates won the toss and asked the West Indies to take first strike at Junction Oval, and they were in early trouble at 2-4-10 in the third over, with Evan Lewis and Johnson Charles back in the dugout. Shamar Brooks did not last long either, falling for 4 in the fifth over. Brandon King was still there though, and he along with captain Nicholas Pooran set about repairing the innings, scoring 64 and 46 respectively before being parted. The Windies closing on 152 for 9. Junaid Siddique was the main destroyer for the UAE, taking 5 for 13 in 4 overs. In reply, UAE opener Mohammad Wazim showed some resistance, hitting 69 not out at the top of the order, but wickets fell constantly around him. Zawa Farid was the only other batter in double figures with 29, as they could only manage 135 for 6 in their 20 overs. The left-arm medium pace of Raymond Reefer accounted for 3 of those wickets at a cost of 17 runs, the West Indies winning by 17 runs. Pooran and his men will meet the Netherlands on Wednesday in another warm-up fixture before playing their first game of the T20 World Cup against Scotland next Monday. Wayne Cunningham, TDT.
Football, loved by many, played by millions. And today we want to introduce you to a unique Trinidad and Tobago national team. Ken Fuentes has more.
Football, a game enjoyed the world over. And tonight, we are at the Southern Indoor Regional Complex to introduce you to a bunch of extraordinary young men whose dream is to represent their country.
An enthusiastic bunch of young men that have been chosen to represent this country as its first ever hearing-impaired national football team. From their experience with the beautiful game, to those of us with hearing, our love for the game of football is the same. The team is captained by Valdano Tobias, president of the Deaf Sports Association in Trinidad and Tobago. For him and his teammates, it's a pleasure to represent their country.
They're happy. They're really, really happy from a 10, because, representing Trinidad and Tobago is our first time, as I said before. It has never been happened before, and it's the first time it's a deaf team, and they're excited about it.
Preparation was the learning process for the team, as most are not accustomed to futsal. He wants the public to know, despite what some may see as a disability, they are more than capable of doing anything they set their minds to.
We can't play sports. not to leave us out, not to just expel us like that, but to work together, and better even if hearing and deaf people work together, and if you want to be invited with us, you could be a part of it as well.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.